Right now, you are wearing clothes. You probably put them on this morning without a single thought. And if someone asked you why humans wear clothes, you'd have an easy answer: to cover ourselves. Modesty, decency. It feels obvious, like it's just part of being human. But that answer is almost completely wrong. Clothing was never really about covering up. It was about survival. And the story of when and why our ancestors first got dressed is a genuine scientific mystery. One that was finally cracked not by digging up ancient outfits, but by studying something crawling, tiny, and deeply unpleasant. To understand why you're wearing a shirt right now, we have to talk about lice. But first, let's clear up the biggest misunderstanding. We tend to assume early humans covered their bodies out of some sense of shame, the way clothing works in most cultures today. But shame about nakedness is a cultural idea, and cultural ideas come and go. They're not the kind of thing that drives a species to invent an entirely new technology. What drives that is a threat to survival. And for a naked human in a cold world, the threat was simple and deadly: the cold itself. Because here's the strange part. For most of our history, humans didn't need clothes at all. We had something better. We had fur. Go back far enough, and our ancestors were covered in body hair, just like every other ape alive today. A chimpanzee doesn't need a jacket. Its hair traps a layer of warm air against the skin and keeps it insulated. Our early ancestors were the same. They were born with their coat already on. But then, somewhere along the way, we lost it. And this is the first great mystery. Genetic evidence suggests humans lost most of their body hair around 1 million years ago, possibly even earlier. The leading explanation ties back to sweat. As our ancestors became active daytime hunters on the hot African savanna, staying cool became a matter of life and death. Fur traps heat. Bare skin, covered in millions of sweat glands, lets you dump heat fast and keep moving. So we traded our fur for the ability to sweat, and it made us incredible endurance hunters. But it left us with a problem waiting to happen. We were now the naked ape. And here's the truly mind-bending part. After losing our fur around 1 million years ago, humans walked the earth naked for hundreds of thousands of years, not a few generations. Hundreds of thousands of years of bare skin, with no fur and no clothes. How? Because they lived in Africa, where it was warm enough that bare skin during the day and huddling together at night was enough to get by. For an enormous stretch of time, being naked simply wasn't a problem worth solving. So the real question sharpens. It's not just why did we start wearing clothes, it's why did we wait so incredibly long to do it? What changed? And this is where the mystery gets genuinely hard, because clothing doesn't last. A stone tool can sit in the ground for 2 million years and still be studied. But animal hides, plant fibers, anything soft enough to wear, rots away in a few years or decades. There are no fossilized outfits. So for a long time, scientists had almost no way to date the origin of clothing. They could find scraping tools that might have been used to prepare hides, but a scraper doesn't prove someone made a coat. It looked like a question we might never answer. And then somebody had a truly clever idea. If the clothes themselves are long gone, what about the things that lived in them? Enter the humble louse. It turns out humans are host to more than one kind. There are head lice, which live and feed on your scalp, clinging to hair. And there are body lice, sometimes called clothing lice. And here's the crucial detail. Body lice don't actually live on your body, they live in your clothing. They evolved to grip the fibers of fabric, crawling onto the skin only to feed, then retreating back into the clothes. Which means body lice literally could not exist until clothing existed. They needed clothes as a habitat. No clothing, no body lice. So the two types of louse, head and body, must have split from a single ancestor at the exact moment clothing appeared and created a brand new place to live. Find the date of that split and you find the birth date of clothing. That's exactly what a team of scientists set out to do. Led by researcher David Reed, they used DNA sequencing to compare head lice and body lice and worked out how long ago the two diverged, using the steady rate at which genetic mutations accumulate over time as a kind of molecular clock. And the answer they landed on was striking. Body lice, and therefore clothing, appeared at least around 83,000 years ago, and possibly as far back as 170,000 years ago. Suddenly, an unanswerable question had a real number, and it came from the DNA of a parasite that hitched a ride in our ancestors' first garments. Now look at how that date lines up with something huge, because this is where it all clicks together. Humans didn't just stay in Africa. At some point, our species walked out and spread across the entire planet, into Europe, into Asia, into brutally cold northern climates that a naked tropical ape had no business surviving. That great migration out of Africa began in earnest around 100,000 years ago. And the clothing evidence suggests we invented clothes before we left, possibly tens of thousands of years earlier. Think about what that means. Clothing wasn't just something we happened to have. It may have been the very technology that made leaving Africa possible in the first place. Without a way to carry warmth with us, the cold north was a wall we couldn't cross. Clothing was the key that unlocked the rest of the world. It let a species built for the African sun walk straight into the ice age and live. And that reframes clothing completely. It wasn't a fashion statement, and it wasn't about modesty. It was portable shelter, a way to take a little pocket of that lost fur, that warm layer of trapped air, and carry it with you wherever you went. The first clothes were almost certainly simple. Animal hides draped and wrapped around the body, held in place by hand or with crude ties. Not tailored, not sewn, just skins thrown over the shoulders against the wind. And for a very long time, that was enough. But it points to a second later leap, one that shows shows up much more recently in the archaeological record, because there's a difference between draping a hide over yourself and actually making a garment. And the tool that marks that leap is one of the most underrated inventions in all of human history, the sewing needle. Eyed needles, needles with a little hole for thread, first appear around 40,000 years ago. That's 100,000 plus years after the first simple clothing. And a needle changes everything. With a needle and thread, usually sinew or plant fiber, you can stitch multiple hides into fitted, layered, closed garments. Sleeves, trousers, hoods, clothing that seals out the wind, traps warmth around the whole body, and can be tailored to fit. This is the difference between a blanket thrown over your shoulders and an actual coat. And it appeared right as humans were pushing into the coldest, harshest environments on Earth, the peak of the Ice Age. The needle didn't just make clothes nicer, it made survival in places like Ice Age Europe and Siberia genuinely possible. So let's put the whole story back together. Our ancestors started with fur, like every other ape. Around 1,000,000 years ago, they traded that fur for bare, sweaty skin, gaining the power to run down prey under the hot sun. For hundreds of thousands of years after that, they lived naked, warm enough under the African sky. Then, at least 80,000 and maybe 170,000 years ago, as they prepared to move into colder lands, they began wrapping themselves in the skins of the animals they hunted, taking their warmth back in portable form. That single technology helped carry our species out of Africa and across the entire planet. And finally, around 40,000 years ago, the sewing needle let us tailor that warmth into fitted clothing, and there was nowhere on Earth too cold for us to go. So the next time you get dressed, remember what you're really doing. You're not just covering up. You're performing one of the oldest survival tricks our species ever invented. Every shirt, every coat, every layer is a distant echo of the fur we lost 1,000,000 years ago, and the ingenious, desperate, brilliant way our ancestors found to get it back. We didn't start wearing clothes because we were ashamed of our bodies. We started wearing clothes because we were cold, and we refused to let that stop us from conquering the world.